calls across the Empire State for better working conditions. Correction officers held demonstrations outside multiple prisons, including in the North Country. ABC 22's Matt Laufer spoke to some of the protesters.
I'm outside Clinton Correctional in Dannemora, where the crowd behind me, one of several across the state, gathering to show support and concern for prison staff dealing with what they call unsafe work conditions. Although I've not heard of anybody actually walking off the job, I have heard that several did not show up to relieve the shift before them, rather to join the crowds fighting for changes. I also spent time at Upstate Correctional in Malone today.
Safer work conditions! Safer work conditions!
Here in the North Country, hundreds gathering outside our local prisons, Upstate Correctional, Franklin Correctional, Bear Hill, and Clinton Correctional. Their message?
Unity!
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 Retired officers, friends and family, and community members all showing support and concern over working conditions at New York State prisons.
These people go to work every day not knowing when it's going to happen to them. That shouldn't happen.
It's unsafe. These guards need unity. They need to have something done so they're safe. And I know my husband and my children are coming home safe every single night.
Something's got to be done, right? You got to give some control back to the people who are in there working. It's unsafe. Would you want to put your child in that environment?
Just a few weeks ago, a substance exposure sent dozens of staffers to the hospital, something many believe a mandate on the use of body scanners may have prevented.
If you want to go in there, you should be walking through those things.
How many exposures? What's it going to take for this commissioner and the governor to stand grounds with these guys?
Just one of the demands they're calling on the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, or DOCS, to address. DOCS issued a statement Tuesday addressing the officers' demands, many of which they say will require legislation.
Then pull them together and have it done.
Albany, where are you?
Protesters say they're not stopping until, quote, Hochul gives in. In the North Country, Matt Laufer, ABC 22 News.
You heard some of the workers chanting to, quote, repeal HALT. The HALT Act limits the time an inmate can spend in solitary confinement, but the state said that would need legislation in order to happen. Assemblyman Billy Jones, who visited Upstate Correctional earlier this year, says he voted against the HALT Act. He told us he understands why COs are protesting.
They're not happy, and I can't blame them for there's been several incidences of contraband getting into facilities, staffing issues. This is all, culminated into a very unsafe workplace. And, there needs to be corrections here.
Republican State Senator Dan Steck also weighed in a letter to Governor Kathy Hochul. In it, he called for DOCS Commissioner Daniel Martuscello to resign immediately. He writes, quote, "It's clear the commissioner is incapable of responding to these very real safety concerns and has lost the trust of our correction officers," end quote. Now, the governor said she is ready to call in the National Guard if these protests continue. Hochul said troops will be deployed tomorrow unless corrections officers go back to work. She also called these protests illegal, saying they jeopardize the safety of other prison staff and inmates.